Welcome to the May 19, 2015 City of Sammamish City Council regular meeting, and later on this evening we'll have a study session. Let's see, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Tom Van?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kathleen Huckabee?
Melanie, did you push your microphone on?
Yeah, don't tell us to do that. When you,
No, I'm always telling you. Right?
you could start over if you want.
You still here?
Yeah. Kathy will walk in. Complicated.
I think it is on.
Okay.
All right, Kathy's not here. Councilmember Don Jaron?
Here.
Councilmember Bob Keller?
Present.
Councilmember Tom Odell? Councilmember Romero Balderrama?
Present.
Councilmember Nancy Whitten? Here.
Okay, I believe Tom Odell is in the premises and will join us shortly, and I will acknowledge that. Kathy, I'm sure, is en route. Maybe you could call her, Ben, and just to make sure. And Councilmember Keller, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just to note that Councilmember Odell has joined us. Okay, our agenda tonight includes a proclamation, National Prevention Week. We have several items on the consent agenda, and we will have an executive session, and I believe we will be having some action afterwards.
Right. Personnel and litigation.
Personnel and litigation, so you can take your choice which one we're going to act on later. And then we are going to go into a study session to continue with the comprehensive plan. So that's what we are, kind of a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda for the regular meeting portion of our evening.
So moved. A second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. We have, I don't believe, any student liaison reports tonight. I don't see anybody there. Next is a special event, a proclamation. This is National Recovery Month, and we want to recognize that tonight. So I'm going to go to the podium and ask Pat Castillo to join me over there. And
Recovery of what?
Well, it's drugs, alcohol.
National Prevention Week.
Oh, good. This is ready to go. This is the proclamation. Whereas substance abuse and mental health problems affect all communities nationwide, according to the 2013 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, an estimated 24.6 million Americans are current illicit drug users. Nearly 1 in 4 young people aged 12 to 20 report drinking alcohol in the past month, and 1 in 4 Americans aged 12 or older smoke cigarettes. An estimated 22 million people in America are classified with substance abuse, substance dependence, or abuse, and more than twice as many adults have a mental illness. The impact of substance abuse and mental illness is apparent in our local community, and whereas with commitment and support, these and other behavioral health issues can be prevented, the focus of National Prevention Week this May is to increase public awareness of and action around substance abuse and mental health issues. Each person has the power to influence the health and well-being of others, whether by supporting someone who is going through a difficult time, participating in activities that strengthen the community, or instilling healthy habits in children from an early age. Taking part in prevention-related activities and conversations helps raise awareness of behavioral health issues and changes lives. And whereas the Healthy Youth Initiative and Drug-Free Community Coalition initiatives under the Issaquah Schools Foundation strives to spread this message far and wide as one of its primary goals. The hope is that our people will become more aware and able to recognize the signs of mental health problems and substance abuse and learn what they can do to help prevent these problems before they start. Whether by being a shoulder for someone to lean on, leading someone to help for a behavioral health issue before it worsens, or setting an example by staying substance-free, we all have a role to play in keeping the people around us and ourselves healthy and safe. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Tom Vance, on behalf of the Sammamish City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2015, to be in support of National Prevention Week, prevention substance abuse, and enhancing mental health in the city of Sammamish. And I call upon our community to observe this week with compelling programs and events that support this year's National Prevention Week theme, the voice of one, the power of all. Pat Castillo is here from the Issaquah Schools Foundation Drug-Free Coalition. I want to present this to you. And
Great. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And let's move either this way or that way. This is good. And Pat will now say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on behalf of the Issaquah Schools Foundation, Healthy Youth Initiative, and the Drug-Free Community Coalition, again, thank you, Mayor Vance and City Council members for supporting National Prevention Week with this proclamation. Sammamish is joining the communities across the country this week in a national effort to prevent substance abuse and mental health disorders, showing others that prevention works and supporting the health and well-being of our community is paramount. The Healthy Youth Initiative and the Drug-Free Community Coalition are proud to be active and engaged partners in this community, a community that focuses its efforts to ensure youth remain healthy and drug-free. The good news is that our youth, the majority of our youth, are doing very well. However, there are still concerns, so we must stay the course together. That is why we also, at this point, I would like to invite you, each of you, Mayor Vance and City Council members, to join us on Thursday, May 28th, to participate in our Action Forum for Youth. It will be held at 7 a.m. at Tibbetts Manor, and what we will be hearing about are the latest results coming out of the 2014 Healthy Youth Survey. I have flyers that I'll be sharing with you as well. We know that behavioral health free of substance abuse and mental health disorders is essential to a person's overall health. We also know that prevention works. So again, thank you, Mayor Vance and City Council members, for your support and outstanding partnership as we continue to work together, ensuring behavioral health of our Sammamish youth and our community.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, next we have public comment. Do I have a list? Okay, public comment is now open. Arul I'm never going to get that right. Menzies, is that correct? Close enough?
That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
I was here yesterday, and I'm sorry I did not get my slides in time, so I thought I would come back and go through them again today. For the record, my name is Arul Menezes, 3145 East Lake Sammamish Lane Southeast. So this is what I'm looking out of my house towards the trail. As you can see, a dense collection of I don't know if council members, if you can see it any better than.
My monitor isn't.
Push the button.
Is it on?
Down.
Yeah.
The lower right corner.
There it is.
You okay? All right. Yeah, so this is what I see now. As you can see, it's a beautiful stand of mature trees, decades old. This is what I'll be looking at if the county goes ahead as currently planned. Their current plan is a 13-foot retaining wall. The one on the right has a person standing there for perspective. You can actually count the blocks. It's only an 11-foot wall because each block is 8 inches. The one on the left is probably more like what I would be ending up with. I wouldn't want to wish this on my worst enemy, and so you can imagine I'm a little distraught at the prospect of having that outside my house. I think we have a choice. I went to the north end. This is a place where the county has saved all the trees, and as you can see, it's a lovely trail with beautiful trees, a pleasant environment, and a few hundred yards further on, we have this. You've got gravel, you've got dirt, you've got asphalt, and a bunch of ugly roofs. You don't even see the lake. So we have a choice as a city. We can have a pleasant trail and that does not impact the neighbors and a lovely and green environment in keeping with the city, or we can have this. So I think yesterday there was a lot of discussion on asking the county for flexibility on trail width. I sense that a number of you on the council are in agreement that some flexibility and narrowing the trail in certain places would be great. At my house in particular, it would avoid the need for a very tall, very long, and expensive retaining wall. It would save the county money, it would save trees, and would retain the beauty of the trail. The rail bed, the current interim trail from fence to fence is already 12 feet wide. So they could pave that without having to do any retaining walls at all, and without impacting the wetlands either. Yesterday, the council was asking whether you had any leverage with the county to achieve this. I believe you do. There may be multiple ways, but I would suggest one, which is that the county has already admitted that in the section of my neighborhood, they only have adverse possession, but they have never actually said what is the limit of their claim. They have not said, they've not even stated what is their own property boundary. My trees are 18 feet from the center line. The proposed toe of the wall is 25 feet from the center line, which is far beyond anything that has actually been adversely possessed by the railroad or the county. So I would request the council that if you could ask the city attorney, for example, for an opinion on whether the city may withhold a permit for construction on adversely possessed property until the boundaries have been settled through, for example, a quiet title process. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Deputy Mayor Huckabee has joined us. Mary Wichter, followed by Eric Wichter. So if you want to.
I need the clicker. And my name is Mary Wichter. I live at 408 208th Avenue Northeast in Sammamish, Washington. And Melanie, that's the one for Eric to speak. So I've been here about water. You're familiar with me from Tamarack, where I live. Today I'm talking about the areas, schools, and the safety issues. On this little map here, I didn't have time to put it on. There's actually been 2 homes built here and 4 homes that are scheduled to finish building this summer, and we're concerned about this little piece of roadway here. People in my area where we live, we go to Margaret Mead Elementary, Inglewood Middle School, and Eastlake High School if you attend public school. This is the boundaries for Mead. My kids started going to Mead actually in 2003, 2004. The area's grown larger, but it's either been Mead or Smith, and you can also see the Smith areas below us to the south in green. The easiest way to get to Margaret Mead if there was an emergency or something and the bus wasn't available or we had to go is you just head south from Margaret Mead on 216th. You head through the roundabout, you keep going, you take a right at Northeast 6th Street. And then you do that little curve thing there where the arrow is. You end up on 210th, which is 2 roads above me. I live on 208th. You can also see on this map where Samantha Smith Elementary is located, where my kids started before they were reboundaried, Englewood Middle School, and also Eastlake High School. So for example, if you're going to Safeway for shopping or for emergency supplies, or you're Eastlake, the way that you presently drive is you drive from that area down Englewood Hill Road, which is very steep. You go down to the Lake Road, you drive back up Lewis Thompson Road, which is also very steep. It's sort of a roundabout way, but that's normally the way that we drive. The other way that we drive is if you go from Safeway and you head south on 228th, and you kind of make those geometric angular turns, you end up back on Lewis Thompson Road going downhill, which is also very steep, and you end up in a very roundabout way to my house again. So that's 3 miles, versus if you just could go the regular way through Northeast 6, which we're talking about from the roundabout, you'll see that's 2 miles and it's blue. And the really important thing is it's rather flat that way. So an emergency situation, if Englewood, if you couldn't get up and down it, or I've had times I've had to park my car at the bottom of the hill at Lewis Thompson, that really is a way that you can walk to safety, and it's a way that the kids can get home from school as well. So as you're considering development for these 4 houses, which are to build this summer, and the last 2 which did build, and I believe there's for sale signs up, we're asking that you look at Tamarack. I know Tamarack is a historic plat. It was platted originally in 1964, but normally when you do pre-plat analysis, you look at things like public health, safety, and general welfare, drainage ways, roadways, alleys, and other public ways. You do look at things like parks, recreation, and playgrounds, and you definitely look at schools. And while there are county roads in our area that don't have sidewalks, there's also other planning features that you can do which assure safe walking conditions for students, families, people living or visiting in the area. And most of all, if we have emergency situations or weather where we cannot access the really steep hilly roads, we need to be able to get through on Northeast 6th Street. So I'm asking that you, as this, I didn't look up the building permit for the orange houses. There's 4 houses being built. We would like you to look at the roadway impacts and the runoff water in that area for safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eric Richter? No? Yes? Okay.
Hello, my name is Eric, and I currently also live with my mother at 408 208th Avenue Northeast. And so my presentation today is on the connectivity concerns and safety of Northeast 6th. So here you can see on the right, there are the 2 newest homes at 210th Avenue Northeast. And right now we're looking south. So here we flipped around, we are looking north at 210th Avenue Northeast to Northeast 6th Street. So the road is currently going north, but then it slightly curves to the east to the right. So here on the right-hand side, next to the ferns on the right side of the road, there's a runoff-made ditch on the curve made by the water, the runoff water from the frequent rainstorms that we have here in Sammamish. So the curve angles down to the bottom of Northeast 6th Street, where we have this giant puddle, and it's ever growing larger. Next, in front of the 4 new homes that's currently going to be built on the right-hand side of the road where the vegetation is, and this is a large problem. So we have affectionately named this part of the street Pothole Alley. It's the Northeast 6th Street to the bottom of the curve. And this is what happens when the road is not properly maintained, and it can deal with the people who use it and also the excess water runoff. And this is also the best connectivity to the roundabout. So for example, myself as a child, I used to bike along this path to Safeway when I wanted a snack or a treat that my mom wouldn't buy. But also you see the Indian couple here who's actually walking to their daughter's house with their groceries from Safeway. So it's a very easy way to get to the roundabout, and along with the new roadway that's been built, the sidewalks, it's very safe. So I'm asking that the council look at the connectivity, the water runoff, and safety of this area. And some of the safety issues are if you have a gravel road with extra water runoff, it attracts unwanted visitors, overnight parking, and also people can use it as a dump for their rubbish as they see the road is unmaintained. But if you address these issues, it's safe for walkers. It's a great school access kid parent route, and also it's an emergency route in the event of extra snow or some other event.
Thank you. Okay, did you want to say something? Mr. City Manager.
I was trying to find out whether or not this is a public road. I was just talking with the Deputy Public Works Director, so it looks like a private road. And that's probably why the conditions are there, but I'll have her to follow up with you on that one further. Thank you.
Question, did I understand that you believe it's a private road?
Not for certain, but that's what we believe, but we'll verify that.
Tamarack, I have the plat here for Tamarack, and it is a private road, but where the couple was walking is in the King County Road, so if the house is developed, they have the option where they could turn it into a King County standard road, and if so, that would be better for the people and the longer-term maintenance. The problem is if you don't do it, with the water runoff, it's going to come down and you're going to have issues with safety concerns.
We'll follow up with you.
Ben, I'd like to have a copy of the maps you showed indicating exactly where this is.
You can hand that to the city clerk, and she can,
Give it to Melanie, please.
yeah. Okay, is there anyone else tonight for public comment? Anyone else here for public comment? Then public comment is closed. Let's see, what's next? Okay, wow, we were moving pretty far. No public. Okay.
We got a lot of work in the study.
We got a lot of work in the study session, so we'll be here late, I'm sure. Next will be council reports. I'll start down at this end with Councilmember Jaron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I want to let you know that I'll be out of town June 10th through 14th in Salt Lake City for National League of Cities steering committee meetings.
Okay.
That's my report.
Deputy Mayor Huckabee?
Yes, the Fire District Board meeting was last week, and I've not had time to do the report. It's my turn, and I'm it, but I was at a Finance Committee meeting today from 4 o'clock to 6:20, and we still don't have the financial policies, which we requested last time. They gave us 7 draft policies to look at. We have been, which they presented to us as policies, which were really procedures and guidelines, and we've been going through those to look at some of the issues there, asked a lot of questions. As you know, the EFR is going through and looking at all of its policies this year to get ready so that when a new chief comes in, everything is in order. So we spent a lot of time on some of those tonight because there were a lot of questions about how they worked and how they worked together, and I think we've gotten some clarification. There is a PRC board or committee that meets on Friday mornings that is going over all of the policies. We didn't know that. So these were directed to the finance group, so we're looking at them, and then they're going to go to the PRC committee to be reviewed, and then they'll come back to the finance committee. And then it will come to the board for approval. The 2 major ones.
Do you have a chart of that?
We asked for a chart, but Wes didn't have time to do it.
Okay.
The 2 major issues are bills for services, and this is a policy where they provide services to other entities, which they do consulting services, maintenance, and a variety of other things. The main one we're looking at is the payment from District 10 to Eastside Fire and Rescue for their administrative services, and they've picked a number, but there's nothing that supports that number. So we're looking at developing a contract and an analysis of how they're determining what the value of those services are. The other is the RFA services that Eastside Fire and Rescue senior staff members have been providing to prepare an RFA document to look at other issues related to the RFA and to develop a contract for that and to determine how much money is owed back from District 10 and District 38 to Eastside Fire and Rescue for that purpose. As many of you know, District 10 and District 38 are looking at a regional fire authority, which is wonderful if they, move forward on that. particularly since District 10 is going to have quite a hole in its budget when the Klahani community, when the Klahani area moves over into Sammamish. They will have some major gap to fill there, so an RFA may suit them. But that is their choice, and that is their project, and that is not an ILA project. So that's what I've been doing tonight. The board meeting, I would say Bob, you might chime in. I'm still kind of rushing from coming up the hill. The board meeting I thought went very well. We had a report on the Personnel Committee, which is looking at how we go about hiring a new chief, and they've identified a number of different agencies that they're going to be looking at and engaging to help us with that process. As many of you know, and as I mentioned,
Yeah, I could just add on the Personnel Committee, I believe that the request for recruiters was opened on Monday.
Oh, good.
And so we should be receiving them. I actually was thinking that I need to check up with them and see what the first pass, if they had people responding yet.
Okay. And as you know, our fire chief is going to be leaving as of June 15th, and he's leaving. He's accepted a position as the fire chief in the East Pierce, thank you, Milton area. So I think we talked last night about, he wasn't there tonight, so I didn't have a chance to talk with him. I don't know if Laura sent him an email about June 2nd, but he'll be leaving the agency about the 10th of June. So it's very tight in terms of giving him a good send-off. Other than that, I'm trying to think what else we discussed. Basically, the biggest discussion was surrounding the RFA, and as, for the audience's purpose, this is a regional fire authority, and a regional fire authority has taxing powers, and it can also impose a fire benefit charge over and above the property taxes they collect. Currently, District 10, which is the agency that used to support Sammamish, supports Klahani and some of the other rural areas. They support themselves through the fire benefit charge. When Klahani moves into Sammamish, there'll be a significant drop in their revenue stream. So it's really appropriate for 10 and 38 to look at forming a regional fire authority so they can collect property taxes as well as impose a benefit charge. For your information, our council members and the staff have decided that an RFA would not be suitable for Sammamish. We have significant revenues, and with our AV, our valuations, the cost of fire services would increase dramatically if we moved into an RFA. Kind of a complicated calculation, but in some cities, such as Kent and others, it has increased by 50% and sometimes almost even doubled. So that's a direction that we are not pursuing, but we are very happy that 10 and 38 are doing that. This morning, I went to a wonderful event. I went to the Fortira Breakfast, which had a chance to say hi to Jean Duvernay. They really spoke about how they are reaching out to cities in a way to help assist with sustainability issues in cities around the region, so as to ensure that that urban environment is vital, that it is sustainable, that it creates a sense of community, so that we can still go forward and as a community protect the rural areas that we love so dearly. So they are actually working with cities on some sustainability issues. And I picked up a number of different cards that I was going to pass on to Jeff if he doesn't already have the information from both Fortira and from King County Conservation District that was there, that give grants to cities that are looking at the urban forest. Fortira also does some projects. I wanted to give that to Jeff so he can take a look at it and see if there are some things that we might want to ask them to provide some help on. And tomorrow morning, just following through on that topic, I'm going to be attending the Urban Forestry Conference, and the first topic is, how do we value our urban forest? So that, I'm really looking forward to that. And a number of the people I saw today will be there tomorrow as well, so that will be fun. And then tomorrow, I also have a regional transportation committee, and I understand there's some extra dollars, so I don't know if that will be able to get some additional service or not. Pardon? You want me to give you the suitcases tonight? Yeah, that might be helpful. Will they have guns in them, or? Anyway. Yeah. So it should be interesting, because there's, as you know, there was a task force that went out and had some conversations in the community, and it's gotten a pretty negative acceptance at the Regional Transit Committee level in terms of what is being brought back. So there'll be a real strong conversation about that, and whether the task force actually did what the task force was supposed to do.
Okay. Councilmember Whitten, turn on your microphone.
I've had several conversations with different people in our community who are really concerned about our comp plan revision process and how we're departing from the existing plan. So there are various people who have expressed that. So I'm hoping as we go forward, we will address some of those concerns and have a positive outcome that people think is as good as our current plan.
Okay. Councilmember Valderrama.
I would first of all like to reiterate the point that Councilmember Whitten had just made of the concerns people have cited on the comp plan. Second, last week I should give out a shout out to the Arts Commission, both for the Opera Ole at Sahali, which is a phenomenal event, standing ovation, rightly deserved. The Arts Commission's really doing a tremendous job. And that was followed by Sunday with a number of the council at the symphony auction, which is doing a tremendous job for the culture and education of our youth and for keeping the elderly sharp as well. On Saturday, I then went out.
Who are you looking at?
I'm going straight down the line. On Saturday, I got the opportunity to host and lead with the Heritage Society and Pine Lakes Garden one of our Pine Lakes trail walks. And that's a phenomenal opportunity. As the weather's getting nicer, I encourage everybody to go out there. You get exercise, you learn about botany, and you have a lot of fun while you're also learning about the heritage and history of Sammamish. And I would be remiss if I don't mention tomorrow is the farmer's market, so I hope to see everybody out there with sunglasses. Thank you.
Councilmember Odell.
Well, Councilmember Valderrama stole my line about the farmer's market. Damn. We'll get even with your rumor. I've been going to a lot of lunches lately, it seems. I went to the Lake Washington School Foundation luncheon a couple weeks ago. I went to the Issaquah School Foundation luncheon last week. And both were extremely well attended, and I think very successful financially, although I haven't heard the numbers from Issaquah. I know Lake Washington did very well.
Oh, I think Issaquah was like 617,000.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was
I just had not heard, but I had not heard, but okay.
I saw an email,
Okay.
so it was quite a nice number.
Anyway, both were well attended, and I think very good for the schools, both schools. The other thing is that, let's see, what else can I tell you? Been to, okay. Upcoming events, I will be going to the RIA 8, that's Water Resources Inventory Act area. It's a salmon recovery effort sponsored by King County and the state to restore the Chinook salmon, and particularly in all salmon in general, to the Puget Sound watershed. This is an ongoing meeting. It's quarterly. It's time for the next one, and I'm happy to say that we're making good progress, but I'm unhappy to say that there is a distinct drop-off in the return run of all salmon this year. There is a problem with the survival rates of the salmon after they out-migrate. They don't know quite what it is going on, but they're working on it. There's been a large increase in the number of predators around, the tremendous increase in the population, sea lion population, seal population, to the point where a transitory pod of orcas, which are not salmon eaters, but they do go after the marine mammals, the seals and the sea lions, have taken up extended residence in Puget Sound. So that tells you they are following the food supply, and that is also why we're having a problem. I also will be joining Councilmember Jared in Salt Lake at the National League of Cities Steering Committee meetings. My committee is the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And the local group here in our area has been getting together again to look at further revisions to the National Transportation Policy, which we'll advocate for during the meeting. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Keller.
Yes, I'd actually need to revisit a couple of issues from the Sound Cities Association Public Issues Committee. The first one is regarding the Committee to End Homelessness, their strategic plan. We've talked about this several times in the past. I brought it up. But by the next meeting, I'll be asking that the City Council give direction as to what I should do at the Public Issues Committee meeting. Right now, we are on the third revision of the strategic plan from the Committee to End Homelessness. Everybody at the PIC meeting started off with having some concerns about the loose structure of the governance of this committee. They also wanted some clarification about the cities. The Committee to End Homelessness, the Governance Committee, was very responsive. They've made many changes to the strategic plan. I want to report too that Lyman was involved with, and Lyman Howard and Jeff Thomas were both involved with Arthur Sullivan and myself, going through the plan and looking for input that we submitted. I know Don Jaron was involved at some point giving input in one of the committees that he was involved with SCA. The point that we're at right now is that we need to make a recommendation. All the cities at the last meeting that I had that had some really serious concerns are now on board with the program. They seem to be comfortable with the language that's there. So I'm not sure how to present this to ask this council to give me support to support this. I will send the strategic plan out to everybody. I would have done that today. I didn't have time to do it. I'll send the whole plan to you. Maybe you can send comments into, maybe we should do that into Lyman rather into myself because of the public records. Maybe Lyman could take your questions and consolidate them if you have them. But at the next meeting, I'm going to be asking for what direction you would give me at the next PIC meeting.
Yeah, as long as everybody has the information at least a week ahead of time, would be great.
Right.
Okay.
Could you just give us an executive summary right now of what that plan is going to look like?
Really, what the plan is the Committee to End Homelessness is an association of organizations that have a focus on ending homelessness. So there's many different committees, and what the governance does, the board of the Committee to End Homelessness, they have funds that they distribute to these different nonprofits, if you will, that support shelters, youth shelters, those sorts of things, and they allocate the monies based on what the need is in the area. And so it looks like their governance board is much tighter than it was before. their plan to end homelessness in their last 8-year plan. They were successful. They didn't end homelessness, but they were successful in providing more housing and those sorts of things with their dollars. So at this point, that's where we're at. That's what I can tell you, what it is, and the strategy is to be developed as to what nonprofit actually meets their need. Is that?
That's very vague.
Yeah, it is vague. I think the best thing for me to do is send you the plan.
I understand what Bob is saying. It's just that
Yeah.
it sounds, the whole thing sounds very vague to me. It's
Yeah,
not
the
just
best
what
thing for me to
your
do
comments
is actually send the plan to you and actually have you take a look at it. And I'll put a cliff note. I meant to do that and I actually have a written report for this particular meeting, but I'll give you some cliff notes of
That
what
would
the
be
plan
helpful,
is.
yeah.
The same thing, the point two, is Best Starts program.
The what?
Now, Best Starts program is a very similar program that Dow Constantine is promoting. He's actually going to issue, trying to get a levy issued for funds to support a very similar program to the Committee to End Homelessness, but the target of this group is going to be for youth under 5 years old. It'll be for shelters where single mothers need help, early education, those kinds of things. There's going to be a levy. It's not clear yet. This one, I can't really give you the actual plan for it. That one, at the next meeting, they're going to give us more information, and I'll pass that on. And what the question is going to be is, should SCA support Dow Constantine's levy? That's what the question is going to be. So we could have somebody come if we can put it in our agenda. I actually had tried to get the Committee to End Homelessness to come into our agenda, and apparently it didn't really fit in our agenda for them to come and speak to us. But we may have time to get somebody from Best Starts to come into one of our meetings and give us a presentation.
Is that a countywide levy?
Yes.
Bob, is this a follow-on to the meeting you and I went to about 2 months ago?
It is. It
Downtown?
is.
Okay.
All right, thank
Very
you.
good.
I actually went to a lot of these meetings, but since you all talked about them, I won't say too much more. I will say that I also enjoyed the Opera Ole program over at Sahalee Country Club wonderfully. Steve Wright, who was the primary director of that, did a great job, and certainly all the volunteers at the Arts Commission did a wonderful job. I don't know how many people were there in the audience. Not too many in the audience, but I know several of us here were there, and it was just a wonderful free event. So beautiful opera. So we had a visit from the principal singer of the opera that just ended at the Seattle Opera, came and did a duet with our local performer, and it was quite wonderful. So that was fun, and I also went to the Sammamish Symphony. I can tell you that we're quite special to have a Sammamish Symphony. I absolutely know that there are 3 or 4 cities in our region on the east side who would love to poach them away from us. And I hear that all the time from them. Of course, they're also, wanting support from us, but and we give it to them. And I appreciate everything they do. They obviously they have some of their. You can find them on the internet, and their programs at East Lake as well as in the park every year are wonderful. They also, I remember driving from vacation actually up on Mount Rainier, Paradise, this past summer, racing down the hill because I wanted to get there because they wanted me to introduce them in their concert in the parks. But what was interesting was driving through Issaquah. And at the Village Theater, there was the marquee. Sammamish Symphony was playing the next night at Issaquah. So they're wonderful ambassadors for our city, and they're a great organization. So I appreciate them very much. Okay, Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
I do, Mr. Mayor. I got 2 reports, and they're, I think, pretty straightforward. Let's start with the first one. That's an easy one. You need to designate Association of Washington Cities voting delegates. There are 4 of you are attending the conference. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councilmember Odell, Councilmember Keller is also attending. I forgot Councilmember Jaron is still on the board of AWC, so he'll be there till 5.
He can't vote.
He can't vote?
Well, he could, but we're not going to let him
So
vote.
you guys need to designate, I think, two for...
It's three.
I'm sorry, three.
Do I have volunteers to be voters? We need a third.
I thought we need two.
We need three.
Three.
Didn't have to. Okay.
Okay, if I have to do it.
Okay. So the voters are Deputy Mayor Huckabee, myself, and Councilmember Keller.
Second one, it's related to a calendar, and I apologize that I haven't had a chance to talk with the mayor and deputy mayor on this topic. It just occurred to me since our last agenda meeting. You're doing a great work and spending a lot of time to get our comprehensive plan done rightfully so. You're our policymakers. You charter the direction for us, and comp plan is one of those important documents. I'm sensing that we need to do some additional work on this. And when I say additional work, not necessarily generating additional consultant work, but allocating some quality council time. When we start the comp plan discussion at 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night and 10:30, all of us are tired, and it's not being very productive for us. So I have a suggestion for you to consider, if that's okay with you all. And again, I apologize to Mayor, Deputy Mayor. I was trying to reach you by phone today. I was not able to do that. I know you were attending other things, so I left messages.
I was in that finance committee meeting.
Yeah, okay,
Couldn't
yeah.
tear myself away.
Sorry. I'm thinking if it's possible that let's meet at noon, one of those council meeting dates. For example, June 2nd meeting. You should have your calendar open anyway, so that evening we have a council meeting. Instead of starting it at 6:30, is it possible to start around 1 o'clock in the afternoon? First item, we'll get through all the things on the calendar, and then we spend close to 4 or 5 quality hours on the comp plan. Now, here's my fear is, if we don't spend some quality time, we're going to slide this thing into fall. While sliding into fall is going to compound the problem for us because we have 3 ordinances that our community is expecting to get the 3 ordinance done, and we have a public work standards that we need to get it done. So the work is going to keep accumulating. It's not going to go anywhere, and I'm afraid that we're going to find ourselves in a much more difficult situation. So if that's reasonable with you, I haven't checked with my city clerk also here, so Melanie, I apologize. We're running all 180 miles an hour here, so, but I thought that this is something that we can accomplish if that works with your calendar. I mean, sometime in the afternoon, earlier the better. Can you all meet 1 o'clock on June 2nd in the afternoon, or June 3rd? Let's do it that way, 2nd or 3rd.
I may be in London.
June 3rd.
We can always cancel the second meeting and just do the June 3rd, and start early again.
June 3rd is not possible for me.
Okay?
We could meet in London, that would work.
Well, you can't pass ordinances in London. It has to be within the city limits.
We voted to have Beaver by a plane, so I said contingent on the partners being able to use it.
Okay, let me give you another try. How about June 9th?
Well, you didn't ask about June 2nd at 1 o'clock.
Okay, June 2nd.
He did, he's in London.
I might be in
No.
London. I haven't, we haven't-
So you missed that meeting?
I thought you
I
said the
might be.
3rd.
It's not yet
Oh,
clear yet.
okay.
I do have a conflict that I might be able to reschedule, but I do have a conflict in the afternoon on the 2nd. The
Can
3rd,
you-
I'm open, but the 2nd.
Can you two check that out?
No.
And
But if we do it, can we do it like at 4 instead of 1:30? Because it's a
No.
baton death march.
That's not going to get us.
Yeah, do we have to stop?
Oh, we
for
should be able to
dinner
done by
and that's it?
6:30 or 7. So just because we start at 1 o'clock, that doesn't mean we have to work till 10 o'clock.
We're just trying
I'm
to,
just thinking that
This
we'll
is
keep
this
a...
council. We always work late.
But,
How about the 9th?
and here's the thing is, if you go to 9th, that we do have to have a 30 days public hearing noticed for the first reading of the ordinance, so I don't want to miss that deadline. I can see that the alarming face from my city clerk there. And if our intent to get this document approved by the end of July, We need to be somewhere around June 2nd. You know, we can probably manage a day. Can we, Melanie?
It's been noticed for June 2nd
We may have to renotice it.
at 6:30.
We will have to probably renotice
We
it
just
then.
have another day.
Yeah. But you need 30 days
The
minimum.
30
right?
days,
Yeah.
right.
So if we do it, first reading in July 1st, first week council meeting, and second reading in the July 2nd, so that will give us enough time to 30 days to do the notice. So second or third would work for us in terms of our own council work here.
Why did you pick the 3rd instead of June 1st, the Monday?
We can pick Monday too? Would Monday work
I-
better for everybody?
I'm better on Monday than I'm on Wednesday.
Okay, would Monday work better, for everybody?
Monday, what, the 1st or the 8th?
The 1st.
First,
I have some medical appointments, and I'm not sure if they're in the afternoon or morning.
Do you have a calendar? You don't have a calendar?
I didn't bring my calendar with me. I apologize, I meant to.
possible to,
It might be possible to change it. It might not, too. So I'd have to check, but we could set it up, and I could always tell you if I have it.
Anyone else have a problem on Monday?
No, Monday.
I mean, I'm here, what time would this be?
Presumably 1 o'clock, right?
1 o'clock.
Lunch
How many
meeting?
hours would we want to go?
Let's do it 6 o'clock, 1 to 6.
This is a
About
study
5
session.
hours. We'll get our work items that we need to do, maybe the first half an hour, we'll try to be efficient, and then the rest we allocate to the comp
I
plan.
think you
It would
need,
just be a study session.
Regular council meeting.
Oh, on the 1st?
Yes.
Just move it from second
From
to
second to first, we're just moving it.
I think you also need to feed us if you're going to do that for that length
will.
of time. I think
We
our
will.
attention span and blood sugars get low.
We will.
I misunderstood. I thought you were hoping that we would get 2 days in that week.
No, just one.
Just the one. Okay.
We start, I think we can get done in one day with the solid 4 or 5 hours. There's been some good progress made so far. There still need to be some additional work that we have to do at the staff level.
Okay, well, let's get that out to everyone, and if Nancy, you could work on your calendar, see how
And
that
it's
works.
important, Nancy, you need to be there also, please.
Yeah, that would
So-
be good.
This is a regular council meeting?
Regular council meeting is substitute for our regular council meeting in the evening of June 2nd.
Okay, I'm going to request that we have no other business during this meeting then.
No public comment?
Hold on a second, let me take a look at the
I
items.
have the volunteer
Public
recognition.
comment to 15 minutes, period.
Well, this was the meeting that we were also going to recognize Bud, if we could.
We were going to what?
He's leaving. Bud is leaving on the 10th of June, so we wanted to recognize him during an early meeting in June. So to take everything off would, there's a volunteer recognition. and
What about
Boys
the
and
meeting
Girls
of
Club.
June 9th?
There's a bunch of public hearings, too.
For the
Why don't we
second.
have a meeting on Tuesday night then, too? I think
Let's
We're
do
gonna
the,
regret it
yeah,
if we
maybe we
miss it.
keep the Tuesday night alive too.
I think we can
Yeah,
do
I think
both.
we have to.
Fine.
Okay?
Keep Tuesday night alive, but maybe we can just make that Tuesday or the Monday a study session,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
That way we get through everything and
And
then
it's
we
the
can,
comp plan, that's all we're doing.
okay?
Just do the com-
Everybody agreeable with that?
Any of those days at this point.
It's a lot of work, but it's got to be done.
We gotta do it. I mean, just postponing it to September, fall, or early next, it's just going to accumulate the work because we got other work that we need to do.
I'm
So we-
okay if it's starting at 1 o'clock.
Can we
because
start at
we're-
1?
Because we're getting home at midnight the night before from New York, so.
Well, you can sleep in, so.
All right. 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock on Monday and then our regular session on Tuesday.
Great, that's
Okay.
all I have. Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Next, we have an executive session on a couple of issues, litigation as well as personnel, and we will we'll likely be taking action afterwards. 20 minutes altogether? Okay, so we'll be back in about 20 minutes. Okay, yeah, could we do something about the glare back there? Is that
Oh, wait, let me
possible?
get my shades.
Okay. We are back in session, and I believe we have a motion from our deputy city manager. No.
Oh, thank you,
Deputy-
thank you.
Deputy city.
When do I pick
I'm
up my
sorry.
paycheck?
Sit down.
$800
We have
to
a motion from our deputy mayor.
Thank you.
I've got something in my mind, but
I move to appoint Lyman Howard as city manager effective March 1, 2016. This appointment is subject to negotiation of a mutually acceptable contract and approval of that contract by the city council at a subsequent city council meeting.
Second?
there is a motion and a second. I don't think there's any discussion, but can I go to a vote on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is a unanimous decision. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I would say this is a nice appointment, but it is, of course, subject to more negotiation. So thank you. We're tough, yeah. All right, thank you. That ends our meeting. So the meeting is, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Because I should say that.
Second.
And there's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes. We're adjourned.
So can we take a 5-minute break?
Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll go into study session. Thank you.
So Lyman will be our new deadly city manager.
Okay, let's get started. Last time we left off in environment and conservation. I believe it was the top of page 48. This was where we finally decided we were too tired to go further. And Jeff, do you want to say a few words before we get started on what we're doing here?
Sure. Good evening, Council. Jeff Thomas with Community Development. And as the Mayor just mentioned, we've got 4 goals spread over 3 pages, including the last page, which includes some tree policy work. And I can speak to that a little bit when we get there, maybe as a quick introduction. But the EC6, EC7, and EC8, plus the trees, will conclude the environment chapter. So I think at a minimum, our goal here this evening would be to make our way through the rest of that and take any questions that council may have, or even more specifically, take any proposed changes that you would like to move forward to the master list that we would include in a strike-through version for the council coming up in June. Assuming we get through that this evening, we do have a few folks from Arch and Sam Platt here in attendance, and certainly if there's any questions the council would like to ask of our interagency friends, this might be a good opportunity to cycle back quickly to utilities and housing. And Sam Platt also submitted a public comment letter tonight that will, once we get through the environment element, we'll distribute that to the council, and maybe there might be a couple quick topics of discussion.
Maybe that's the good time to have
exactly.
any questions or thoughts.
So I think if we're able to achieve all that tonight, I think we would leave in good shape. And then it sounds like, as the city manager mentioned earlier this evening in his report, move to June 1st for a daytime study session, and we can talk about that a little bit before we adjourn.
And we
this
have
evening.
plenty of material to look at before June 1st with this.
We do, and we'll actually, I think we'll speak to that a little bit as well
All right.
here as we move on. So
Okay.
with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Okay, let's get started with EC6, Protect Clean Air. Again, it seemed to work okay if someone makes a recommendation, somebody wants to speak to it, somebody wants to talk more about it, let's do it that way, then move to the next thing. So Councilmember Whitten, you want to start?
Yes, the title, I think it should be Improve and Preserve Air Quality.
Anybody have a problem with that? Okay. You got another one? Go
I
ahead.
have 2 more.
Okay.
And these we ran by with staff Emily Hartici and Bob Keller. To 6.5, What we did here is what I was hoping we could do, is we looked at the existing policies and then at the draft and said what is not there that we'd like to see included, added to the comp plan. So the changes, and this should complete between Bob and myself, the changes that I will want to see based on the existing for this 6 onward for this section. So I think we made a lot of progress. From the existing comp plan, look at policy environmental policy 2.1, subsections A through D.
What page?
If you have your big thing, it's on page 7.
Okay.
It's the first policy under EC2 at the very top on the left. And
Page 7?
page 7
On the big thing.
of the big thing, the existing.
Put that up on the screen here for council momentarily.
And it's, okay, put it up and then I'll get to it, I'm sorry, and then I'll. 2.1.
Went too far.
Okay, there you go. It is to take subsections A through D of 2.1 and add them into draft policy 6.5.
Okay. It needs to be in addition to the 5,
Yes.
the A through E there?
Yes.
Okay.
And we thought that captured what we wanted and that the others were pretty well. Then there's one other one.
Okay, why don't we, do we have any issues with that thought?
No, fine.
Good.
Okay.
And the other one's pretty.
Councilmember Jarrett, yeah?
Yeah, the D one says encourage the proper use of wood stoves and fireplaces. I wouldn't encourage the proper use, I would discourage the use of, because
Why?
even the proper use
Why?
is,
It's the proper use.
well, what is the proper use?
Exactly.
Wood-
What he's trying to say is that even the proper use is not good enough.
I'll let it pass because I want to get out of here
frankly enjoy
sometime
my
tonight.
wood-burning fireplace with there's no air pollution issue outside.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes there are times of the year when the use of any of those are probably not a good idea because of the air
Yeah.
quality, but, yeah,
I need to listen to the weather report.
Well, it takes trees also.
that's true.
Yeah, most of.
That's why I guess you should
Most of
encourage
the
planting
trees are
trees to replant the ones.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay, and your next,
The next one
Are we
is,
still on that E 6.5?
no, I think we're not.
We burned through that.
we've gone through that one.
Just a comment on section E of that, support a transition to low-emission municipal vehicle fleet. I think we're working in that direction with our support of electric charging stations and electric vehicles. And I saw an article in Los Angeles, they're buying electric buses with a range of about 155 miles on a charge.
Wow.
So the transition to electric vehicles is going to happen,
Yeah, I also saw some very nice,
in spite of Mr. Romero.
yeah.
And the city of Seattle going to diesel, the natural gas.
Okay, well, then there's some other opportunities with utility trucks and so on that are,
Yeah, lots in that area.
may have 40 to 80 miles potentially for electric and then switch over to
Natural
gas,
or something.
right? Yeah.
Coal.
Not coal, no.
Okay,
The next change that I had.
Let's not get giddy yet too late. It's only 8:30 here, you know.
But I'm almost done for my tonight, so.
Let's go. Next one, which is,
On a roll. Look at right below, in the existing policies, go down to 2.2. And add that,
Existing policies?
existing comp plan, the big piece of paper.
2.2 on this.
Oh, okay.
On page
On
7.
your
The next
screen
one, sorry.
currently.
Yes.
Page 7 again.
Yeah.
2.2, upper left. And then take that and make that a new policy under 6.
So 6.7 perhaps?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Is that different from 6.6?
Healthy indoor quality
Yeah, this is,
and support education. It's very different. This is, take proposed land use actions.
Well, I have a question. How is that different than the new proposed 7.5 of considering climate change impacts when conducting review of proposed land use and transportation actions and programs other than the transportation piece? Can they be combined? Oh, I
same
just-
thing.
I think they're very similar.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
exactly
they
where I was
are.
going. I think these two are very similar.
Well, they are,
I would replace the new one with the old one. I think it's,
the local plans, and I'm not sure.
Well, it says local proposed land use and transportation actions and programs. So there's a possibility that's already in there, or even though it's in a different
or
area?
just use the wording from 2.2, which I think might be a little bit
Yeah, I agree.
clearer.
I agree with you.
Well-
Wording 2.2 is stronger.
Yeah, I would stick with
Well,
the
but
word
then use air
2.2.
quality impacts and climate change impacts.
Yes,
Use
I would stick
about-
with the air quality, and just stick with 2.2.
But I see it also applying to climate change, which is broader.
Well, it is a different subject slightly, so is it okay to have it in both places?
Yeah, so
One on air quality, one on climate change?
why don't we just do that?
Okay,
So we'll take the old, or the existing 2.2,
make that 6.7?
we'll make that 6.7, and then it sounds
Keep
like
7.5?
we'll leave 7.5.
Okay, because they are,
Well, if we can
Slightly
discuss
different.
what are the climate change impacts that we're going to be doing at the city level versus the air quality. I can
We don't know, that's one of the general policies that's open that will definitely
Okay.
have input over the next,
So could we
20
put
years.
consider potential
well,
climate change or something to caveat since we don't know what this is today?
I guess I don't
I
understand.
don't know, I mean, if we're just going to consider climate change impacts, if there are none, we don't have to do anything.
Well, that's
If there are some, we'll have to do
But
something.
if we don't know what it is today, as Nancy just said, like air quality, I can see how you measure and go through and look at it. When you start to go to climate change at the city level, for me, becomes a lot more complex.
It's going to
And
be
so-
very difficult to
Yeah,
ascertain.
but you know, it's,
versus even the county, I don't know how they can.
Well, we're just about to sign on to a climate change resolution with the K4C program, so we do have goals and outcomes that we may be looking at in the future. So having this in here to consider is certainly, I think, a good idea.
That's why I said, but put potentials in
But-
one time.
but the whole comp plan is aspirational. I mean, I can remember objecting
Yes.
mentally to transportation, which says encourage multimodal things of transportation when we don't have any in the midday.
Yeah.
But the visioning of it is that we want it, and here we want to be able to deal with climate change. So it's aspirational, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something we can lay our hands on right
And
now.
it by its nature, it's
One of the they've talked about most often is rising waters,
By what?
rising water levels.
Okay.
Which
So
wouldn't affect us
if we-
much in the city, but obviously in the region.
affect, Lake Sammamish.
No,
well, and trees dying with
Lake
the
Sammamish
change
is
in
much higher
temperature.
than Lake Washington.
It'll
It's
affect
much
Lake
higher than-
Sammamish when the ocean increases maybe 50 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you never know.
That's true.
Trees can die too when there's temperature
Right.
Yeah,
change and lack
very
of
much so.
water, which
Yeah.
we've already experienced. weather
Temperature would,
changes.
And
temperature would definitely be one for us. Sea level rise, obviously.
More for Seattle,
More for
Tacoma than us.
We'd have a hard time getting to Seattle.
So, I mean, I'm happy with. the
Borders would
language.
change.
Yeah.
I wanted to make
We
a
might-
comment. I don't know.
Hold on, let's try to, are we done? Any more?
I'm
for-
done unless,
Okay.
Bob,
Did you want to make a comment, Bob?
Yeah, I wanted to go back. I don't know if Nancy was going to say this, but 7.2, it's on.
no, you were
48
going to
above.
do all the sustainability ones.
Yeah. So did you want to comment on that one?
No, I want you to do all the sustainability that we.
Okay.
went
Well,
over.
7.2 isn't in the
Well, just
sustainability.
before we go, is anyone else on the council besides
Yes.
Councilmember Witten and Councilmember Keller have any other comments on EC6?
No,
Oh, okay.
done.
Okay, okay.
That's why I've got my button on.
Now let's move to Did you have one?
Yes,
Okay, please.
thank you.
I didn't hear a yes there, so.
I did. I said that's why I
Okay,
had my
go.
button on. A number of years ago, there were several articles in the paper that have talked about the climate in Sammamish and the surrounding communities that kind of border the mountains. And the discussions were around the fact that our air is much worse than air in other areas of the Puget Sound region because the prevailing winds and they bounce off the mountains and they get trapped here. So my question to you is, why are we using the Puget Sound air quality? Is there some way we can better define the quality of the air in our community?
Something we can certainly look into.
Pardon?
That's something we can certainly look into.
I'd really appreciate that because I remember reading about that and talking about higher levels of asthma and other, air-related situations.
Well, they do break it down in Puget Sound, Tacoma or versus Seattle areas.
Yes,
Some are in
but we're on
attainment
the
and
east
some aren't.
side near, yes, and we're in that maintenance type of mode. But I would really like to know if they are measuring in our area more specifically. Maybe we do need to have those electric vehicles more quickly.
There you go.
Or maybe get buses, electric buses to drive people instead of taking their cars.
Kathy, I think you have a good point. We are a good 400 to 500 feet above Seattle. And when you get a temperature inversion, the crud stays close to the ground. And the lower you are, the thicker it is. Our situation up here could be completely different from the Seattle area proper.
Well, the point
And
that
I
I
think-
read
I
is
think it'd be
because
a
we're
good-
near the mountains that it
A
gets
good
trapped.
point to bring up with Puget Sound Clean Air Agency as to what is the granularity of their measurement capability.
So
Okay.
just quickly to clarify before we leave that then. So your first question anyway is, what specific measuring is going on up on the plateau?
Or what specific
in this
measuring
area.
is available
Okay.
to be used on the plateau so we can determine if our air quality is worse or not.
Got it.
And then it would prioritize some of these actions maybe at a higher level than if we're looking at a broader region-wide number.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for EC6? Seeing none, let's go to EC7, be a regional leader in mitigating and adapting to climate change. Want to have a comment on that section?
Bob?
Yeah, I just, on 7, the only comment I want to make.
Could you
is,
speak into your,
Thank you.
make sure it's on?
7.2.
Yes.
It seems that this is so specific about the mayor's climate protection agreement that either the agreement should be in the section behind, or we should maybe delete that specific reference. Seek to meet or exceed climate pledges and commitments made by Sammamish, period. Or
I would delete it.
Yeah, I'd support that.
I delete it.
Yeah, delete
I would too.
So period after Sammamish?
No, delete.
Made by Sammamish, period, and delete the rest.
Well, but we do have pledges and commitments that we make regionally, and we do vote on them, and I think it's a good idea to take those seriously, whether they're mayor's climate protection agreement or
Or
whatever it is.
maybe we could add regionally there then, but I think either this specific agreement, it either needs to be in the plan somewhere, or,
Well, that's also possible as an addendum, I suppose, but
Boy, can you imagine if we did every agreement?
That's
and
true.
Underlying regulation and.
Or a period after Sammamish?
I would third it.
Fourth.
I'm fine with that. We've got consensus on that, okay?
Consensus, okay, let's move.
All right, anyone else for something on EC7?
Yes,
Deputy Mayor, you don't have to use the buttons, I'm just
Okay.
looking at you.
whatever. EC 7.4, where we advocate for administrative practices, land use patterns, transportation systems and building practices that will reduce greenhouse gases. I'd like a stronger word than advocate for.
Promote?
Promote.
Well, you could do
Take
that via an
steps
ordinance, but
Well, my brain is a little fried after that finance committee meeting, so I'm struggling for a word.
well,
there,
if we
but-
say promote, or that at least says we're going to try to do something, and that could be then result in an ordinance if necessary.
Or support changes in administrative.
Promote is kind of saying, we're going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
You okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Anything else on section 7?
Bob?
Councilmember Odell?
What?
I'm on 7.
Go ahead.
Okay, on EC 7.5, drop the word consider to start with and begin climate change impacts shall be assessed when conducting review of proposed building, land, and transportation actions and programs. Just to be consistent what we did with EC 6.7.
Well, you're calling for an assessment. Is there an issue with that, do you think, Jeff?
They were going to reword it per the one in 6.5, I think, wasn't that?
6.7.
But that sounds more like an ordinance than a
Aspirational goal.
aspirational goal.
We're just going to use it and substitute climate change for whatever that one in 6 was, air quality.
Well, this is different, so could we,
I wouldn't support that. I wouldn't support that. Shall there.
I mean, that, again, it sounds more like an ordinance than an aspirational goal. But I think we could probably, if we could come up with a better word than consider, I suppose.
How about assess climate change impacts?
Okay, the 2.2, which is 6.7, is air quality impacts of proposed land use actions shall be assessed when developing local plans and transportation strategies.
Well, but this is not air quality, this
I
is
realize that,
climate
but what
change.
we talked about at the very beginning of this is that, was it part of, should it be part of this or not, of climate change? And then I thought we were just going to substitute climate change for air quality and then continue on.
I'd be very comfortable with that.
I'm sorry,
I'd support that.
So take 2.2.
I'm not sure what we're supporting here, so,
2.2 and just change, no, 2.2 in this, and just change it to climate change.
Right.
but
And
we-
then take this out, because it's the same concept. It's just, we've agreed on a wording.
Say it again.
so we're not doing anything to the EC6, we're leaving that alone.
6.7, right.
Yeah, that's going to stay,
And that's going to be based, it's going to be verbatim
but
here.
that's about air quality.
Right, and we were just going
This,
to.
this
now-
one will now cover climate change.
Climate change.
Right, and it's the same wording, except we're substituting
Okay,
in
and we're
2.2.
substituting that for 7.5.
And
Yeah,
we're
climate change will substitute for air quality.
fine to that change on 7.5 with our environmental review procedures and process. So that's something that fits right in.
That's why I ask you, is there an issue with that in terms of finding a way to do that?
Yeah, so
Yes?
the proposal to take the 2.2 and just substitute climate change, that's good.
Okay, and we're replacing 7.5 with those words.
Okay.
Well-
One more, Tom?
That troubles me, because you're saying that you shall assess climate change impacts, and you don't know how to do that.
That was my question.
I think that's a can of worms we're opening up there.
That's where I began with.
No, it isn't what it says. It says, consider climate change impacts. Well, considering it is one thing, but you shall,
The word "shall" is not in there, is it?
shall be assessed. Climate change impacts shall be assessed. I don't agree with that. How are you going to assess climate change?
Just like you
impacts?
do for SEPA.
Well, how do you assess?
We have to go through now with environmental reviews, SEPA, and, I mean, essentially there we frame it as environmental impacts. So I guess the question really is the council comfortable with the nexus between environmental impacts and climate change impacts.
Well, you already have to assess it, is that correct? Is what you're saying?
We do. We certainly do for our projects and programs, and then private applicants have to as part of
So it's already been done.
environmental.
No, it isn't.
Environment,
No.
he's saying we could, is there a
But
nexus
they use the word
between
environment.
environment and
Is
climate?
environment, correct. So
Climate change impacts are different than environment.
Well, they're part of it.
You give me the climate change impacts from any action. I'd be really interested in hearing that.
Cars, promoting electric cars,
And how does that affect the climate?
limit the emissions, which
See, the nexus is really difficult to prove. So you're asking for something I don't see possible to achieve.
Well, it says,
You're talking about promoting electric cars, but it's not because of climate change. Okay.
Well, if we leave it the way it is, Don, under your logic, that doesn't work either.
let's see if we have at least a consensus. We have a suggestion that we take 2.2 from the old plan, substitute climate change, and then make that 7.5. Can I have just a show of hands who are okay with that?
So it's going to say climate change impacts of proposed land use actions shall be assessed? Is that what you're saying?
No.
To the extent that they can. I mean, if you can't, then you can't, but.
No, I think they're trying to say is
If they don't, they don't.
climate changes impacts of proposed land use action shall be assessed when developing local plans and transportation strategies.
Right.
To the extent feasible or possible.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay, can we put something in there to the extent possible?
to the extent practicable.
Practicable, whatever way you want to do it. Okay,
Okay, one more.
one more, okay.
7.7, reword it to start with track in the middle of the second line. And it would read, track the best available climate change science. Add the words climate change science to use for planning purposes. Just ditch the beginning part of that line.
Run that by me again.
Okay. The whole thing would read as follows. Track the best available climate change science to use for planning purposes. In other words, keep up on what's going on.
Which one is that?
E7.7.
7.7.
Start with the word track.
Oh, I see.
The best available climate change science to use for planning purposes.
Fine.
Whatever science is available.
That's fine.
Okay,
Fine.
we good on that?
Yep.
Good. Anything else for section 7? Bob, did you have something? No? Anybody else? Let's move on to EC8, increase sustainability and efficiency of building practices in Sammamish. Either Bob or, okay, you have something?
It's kind of a general statement to start with. So I'm not going to point to a policy yet. What I want to talk about.
Speak into your,
Sorry. I'm going to speak generally to this section first. And that is, we'd like to define sustainability a little bit better, wherever it fits in here. I have on here, page 10, add a glossary for a framework on what sustainability is, first off.
Let me clarify if I may. Just with Emily, she was saying in the very beginning, page 10 of the very first portion of this whole comp plan draft, you would add, they would pick a professional definition of sustainability that the staff would provide to us and insert it on page 10 when they get into the topic, and also insert it as a definition in the glossary. So everywhere sustainability is used, it's defined with a common definition.
didn't we already agree that we would have at least some pages that would bring together the sustainability issues throughout the plan? Kind of bring it together? We agreed to that weeks ago, I think. That
March.
definition of sustainability could be at the top of that?
Well,
We wanted to go one step further, though.
can it go,
we wanted to actually see if maybe we could, because sustainability is woven throughout the policy, maybe we could have an index. If we don't, we could have an index to where things that are focused on sustainability, so you can see it. But let me go one step further with that. We were suggesting that we create a goal about a new goal about sustainability, that we're a sustainable city, new goal. And then we would put a policy together that says the city will develop a strategy for sustainability. That's going to be the policy. And then underneath that, we could have this index of all those things that support that throughout the plan. So this is really not creating new policy. It's just making sustainability kind of condensed in one area so we could actually see it.
Well, so would you take, on page 11, there's the framework for sustainability. Is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
It could be. To be honest with you, this conversation came up at this point. We may have missed something somewhere else.
Emily going over that.
Okay, I'm looking at page 11 in the introduction. And
Well,
there's
10 and 11 as well.
Well, but I'm talking about 10 where it lists the framework for sustainability and health. It sounds almost like
City
that's what
Mayor,
you're talking about.
yeah, that is the framework goals, and I think that that Councilmember Nancy Whitten and
Keller.
Councilmember Keller were wanting to see the policies as well indexed. So they're easily referenced. You could easily flip back and forth to where the actual policies are,
Okay.
as well as the framework
Like I
goals.
said, we were going to, approve some pages that brought
Yeah.
together that stuff.
Yeah,
So
up
that
front.
would be exactly it.
Yeah, it'd be easy that way.
It just occurred to us again that if that's the case, we didn't want to change anything. We just wanted to
No, I
have
understand.
an index that sets up
Compilation.
and shows
Yeah,
where the policies are.
which is what we asked for weeks ago. So, okay.
All right.
Tom, can I address the overall EC8 wording, though? I can read this one two ways. If we're dealing with environmentally friendly stuff, I get that as I read the detail. But when I first hit this, to me, as a business person, efficiency means low cost and cheap, which is not what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to suggest that we change this to encourage the use of environmentally friendly building practices in Sammamish.
Which one is that?
This is 8 itself, goal
goal.
EC8. The bold goal.
So what do you run the
Encourage the use of environmentally friendly building practices in Sammamish.
Well, that's policy 8.1 says that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like what it says now, just
Well,
sustainability and efficiency,
Sustainability, I mean, what is sustainability?
That's why we wanted a definition.
which we're not going
And
to add.
efficiency. Efficiency, to me, is cost, not necessarily efficiency in terms of CO2 emission, that type of thing.
Well, why don't
I think
you
it could be that.
say increase the sustainability in Sammamish and not building, not limit it to building practices?
Well, this is about building practices, this section, so,
I'm just trying to make it more on topic than it
And
reads.
I'd like to go a little bit further because, last week when I was leaving the building and David Hoffman was outside and we were talking about buildings and the type of buildings that they want to build in Sammamish. And he's talking solely about large, single-family homes, as opposed to even the type of home that some of us that are empty nesters might want to move to. And it's, every time you talk about this, you hear the talk about affordable housing. I'm not talking about affordable housing. It can be very high quality, and I mentioned the community that we looked at in Bellevue and seriously thought about. 10 years ago, the homes were selling for $700,000. This is not affordable housing. It was well-designed patio housing that minimized the use of the land, was highly energy efficient. You have the zero energy in Issaquah. Those things don't just happen because somebody drops by and says, oh gee, I'd like to build that one. we have to be more proactive to try to work with somebody who is willing to bring either that type of community, that type of building project to our city, or to, as Issaquah did, step out and try to find somebody to bring that. So I would like to have a much more robust statement in here that says that we will, I don't know, reach out to sustainable building communities and invite them to put a, I don't know what kind of a development.
Are you talking about changing an existing one or adding a new one?
No, I'm adding a new one. And how do we go about doing that? What kind of language could we use that would actually help us to set forth and reach out to some of these communities to see if they would come in and build in our community?
So Kathy, what you're after is high-end housing, but smaller.
High-end, maybe smaller, but certainly a lower footprint.
More efficient.
More efficient, more energy efficient.
Doesn't have to be high-end, no.
It doesn't have to be high-end, but the thing that I find when I work with the building community is when you talk about smaller housing, they're thinking cheap, and they're thinking affordable. That's not what I'm thinking necessarily at all. It's something that we would like to move to, that many of us would like to move to, but how do we encourage that?
But shouldn't that be one element of our diversity of housing options? I
No,
mean,
we're talking here about building practices. and
well, but I
saying-
mean, there should be room for a variety of housing. Everything shouldn't be small, sustainable.
But we're not getting that at all.
Well, all I'm saying is, when you want to capture what you want to capture, we don't, it's just like when Galvin used to come to our meetings and want us to do
No,
smart
don't say that.
growth.
I'll
Well,
come over and slap you.
Well, but smart growth wasn't appropriate for the entirety of the city.
I'm
So,
not saying there is.
I know, all I'm saying is the wording should be sensitive to the fact that that's an appropriate area to support or promote, but not
I
necessarily.
didn't say that.
No, I know you didn't, but what I'm saying is.
I'm starting, we're kind of getting lost in the weeds here. It seems to, Jeff, you have a comment?
So,
Yeah, he's looking puzzled.
well, no, actually, so what I was going to offer was to the deputy mayor's objective here of, I think what you're looking for is maybe if we, for a moment, divorce the cost and the size of the housing and focus just on, I think maybe the undercurrent of what you're saying is the building practices. You want to promote Sammamish and maybe have Sammamish do some coordination in the city to
Or
try and
demonstrate,
get
yes.
to try and get some of those green builders out there
Right.
to do business in Sammamish.
So the word you might use is incentivize.
Could be.
If we have incentives, then maybe the builders will come in.
Thank you.
Well, how would you incentivize them, Don?
Well, that's not in the, that's
Expedited-
not in the comp plan.
That's going to be in the, you know,
Expedited
So, yeah,
in some kind of
Same way we
ordinance that we
measure
would do.
climate change.
and that's in, and I can speak to that briefly. In my previous work up in Bellingham, for example, the city did provide incentives to the extent we could. For example, priority permit processing. That would be one example. Not, you know, and we did have folks that did utilize that. Was that the sole decision why they decided to obtain a permit to install solar panels or you know, other types of green building practices? No, but it certainly helped them in energizing them to do that work, to do business within the city.
I'm looking at like the zero energy project in Issaquah. Why is it there instead of here?
Because they got a grant, and they were, I mean, I was just going to bring up that exact project and say, I would love to see something along what you're saying, but also see the city be a leader in prototypes that could be a model for a private development. I'd love to see there's some language in here complementing what Kathy was just saying, basically giving the city a basis for doing a zero energy type of prototype and helping fund it through grants and other things and with partnerships to. And
sorry.
I'd love to see
Didn't mean to
one
cut.
like in the Highland.
I'd love to see that, and also, you know, I think I've mentioned to you before, Michelle Petit and I both went out to the folks that do the cottage homes, which are, again, very nice, high-end homes in various parts of the community, and they basically told us they would not come and build in Sammamish because our codes are too inflexible. So how do we make it more flexible so that they would be willing to have a conversation?
I was just going to say, we do have a couple of policies in the housing element that address that particular topic. We've got one that talks about promoting energy-efficient housing choices through incentives and other means. And then we also have a policy that talks about cottage housing and other sort of
So I have a
unique
question for
housing
Jeff.
types.
Then, given Kathy's objective of looking for a way to get a larger variety of housing options here, including the smaller single-story type place that she's talking about, is that better dealt with here or better dealt with in the housing section? Because the way I read what we're trying to do here is we're trying to encourage the use of green building techniques, LEED, that type of thing. Am I correct?
That's correct, and that's why I mentioned a moment ago about kind of divorcing the size of the unit and the cost of the unit from the building practices in this particular area.
Getting back to Tom's first suggestion of changing the title, I wonder if this works, increase the sustainability and environmental efficiency of building practices in Sammamish?
I like
Does
that
that work?
better. Thank you.
Okay. So we're not talking about money necessarily. Anything else in 8?
Wait a minute.
Going once.
8.2.
Okay.
You're going backwards.
In 8.2, I'm wondering on the discussion right now, the last comment is by providing flexibility in meeting regulatory requirements. And my question that I would have about this.
I'm sorry, where are you reading again?
8.2.
It's 8.2. The last.
Oh, by providing
By
flexibility.
providing flexibility
Okay.
in meeting regulatory requirements. I'm just wondering, you know, how that would be reviewed, meaning that if I had a project that I had some green energy element to it, and I came in and said, then the regulatory requirements don't apply to me, right? And, or I could change them. So I'm wondering if we should, rather than saying by providing, it should be a little looser, maybe consider flexibility or delete it, one of the two, but consider it so that it's just not a direction. It's not a
And
specific
put it in its own policy, because flexibility is a goal, should be a goal.
So you,
Achieve sustainability through flexibility.
could you say considering flexibility in
Yeah.
meeting regulatory?
I just think that would be, I'm asking the question of, you know, is this direction so specific that somebody could abuse it, is really what I'm looking at.
I'm also wondering if it's legally defensible.
Yes, I would be concerned about that somebody might abuse it. On the other hand, I remember we had a developer who very seriously approached us about the one way to deal with stormwater issues was to build tree houses. And I don't see too many people stepping up for that. On the other hand, you'd probably have to have some regulatory changes if you did that.
So, going back, what I would like to do is see it taken out of the existing one, because I think flexibility should be a goal for all of our regulations where it's appropriate. So if you put a new policy that's general and link it to sustainability, say you meet the goal of sustainability by or consider flexibility in regulatory requirements or regulations to achieve sustainability.
Maybe to achieve sustainable building practices, being that that's
Yeah,
kind
right.
of what we're
I
talking
mean,
about.
yeah.
Okay, we good with
So
that?
we can do that, yep.
That way you make it a general, which I think is good because flexibility often offers.
Anything else for section 8?
Section 8.
Yes, Section 8, right, Section 8. you got it. Okay,
Different
start
meaning
spreading that
to
word.
some of us.
let's go to Section 9. That would be
If I may,
maintain, yes.
if I may, Mayor, just speak to this briefly before the council
Okay, that's right.
begins
You wanted to say a few
chiming
words.
in. Yeah, so goal EC9 here and the 7 policies that fall underneath this work in conjunction with a smaller subset of policies in the land use element that reference urban forests and tree retention and so forth. So the entire body of policies, these 7 plus a few over in the land use element, these were policy new, so these are all new, and these are policy recommendations from the Planning Commission based on council's direction in both December of 2013 as well as September of 2014. You'll recall in September at your last joint council commission meeting, that was the second set of direction that was provided to staff and to the commission. The commission took that direction, and before starting to work on code, went and cycled back around through last fall and developed a policy to implement the council's direction. And then what's been happening here in the spring, once the commission forwarded the comp plan recommendations onto council, is they've now went back and we have drafted at the commission's direction the first draft new tree code to implement the policies that are in the comp plan here. So this is what they've come up with. So this is all new. And I just wanted to make those few comments for the council, a little bit of context before you take a look at it.
Can we cross-reference the fact that we should also look at the section in land use, and then land use could cross-reference to this section?
See also, something like that?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
And we've got, I don't have them, the numbers memorized off the top of my head, but we can definitely do that, yeah.
but we take that as a,
Yeah,
A friendly
I'll
amendment.
use 6.2,
that is one.
maximize tree retention and assure restoration.
whatever it is, staff can pull it up with a word search, and that gives us a continuity and a link, I think.
Sure.
that's,
Yeah, we can do a little sidebar there. And
Any suggestions on EC9?
Yes.
Councilmember Valderrama, then Councilmember Jarrett.
Yeah, 9.4 talks about encouraging community residents and property owners to preserve the green and wooded character of the existing neighborhoods. We see the title in number 9. I'm wondering if we could eliminate that and just change 9.1 to preserve and enhance the character of the city's existing tree canopy. And then 9.4 would be encompassed under that.
preserve is a mandate.
Or preserve and enhance the character of the city's existing tree canopy.
Well, this is a different thing. I mean, I think you're asking community residents to do something, and the other one is a more general statement, I think, obviously, and this is more about local neighborhoods and encouraging residents to
Their own
property
backyard.
owners. And,
Well, that's what I was
yeah,
trying to
it's
say.
more
is
of a-
that,
It more goes down, and I like the idea of having a little more there and
Okay.
giving a little more direction.
It's-
And
What I would like to have is it be more expansive and broader to be seen across the board.
well, that's EC 9.1.
Well, that's what I was thinking, though, by putting them together, but I'm fine with the other. I just thought it would be more succinct to go through.
And would it be better to say urban forest rather than tree canopy?
Yeah, tree canopy has connotations that are not always good because that looks at older trees as opposed to younger trees. Perhaps urban forest would be a better.
that works.
Or you could say both.
9.6,
I was going there, too.
I would, after the first word, I would change it to read develop more stringent regulatory penalties for unauthorized tree removal.
Absolutely.
So how would it read?
Develop more stringent penalties for unauthorized tree removal.
Don't we have regulations about tree removal?
But they don't work.
We're developing more specific ones at this point, so.
So this will be in line with that, the more
Councilmember
stringent.
Odell's, I believe it was Councilmember Odell.
Yeah.
That change would definitely work.
Of
with
course,
what we're
the
doing.
problem with that is that if we go out and change it, we're always looking back at this, and it's wanting more stringent.
More and more,
So
yeah.
perhaps stringent as opposed to more.
How about more effective?
I like that.
Because that way it gives you flexibility, not just to increase the dollar amount, but to say maybe we should do it on the second.
Okay, I'll go for that, but I want to change one other thing on it too. Develop and enforce more effective regulatory penalties.
That's fine, I think, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'd like to
Not
throw
worth
in
it.
another one in here too, which isn't on here, Jeff. And that is I want to do something that would address either the topping of trees or the limbing of trees to the point where they look like a foam pole.
I don't know if that should be at this level.
Where, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I want to get at the issue of people who don't cut the tree down, but they do everything else to it, like top it or limit up to 80% of the trunk, that type of thing.
So that is actually part of the draft code. The commission has directed staff to prepare, but we can certainly.
I don't know if it fits in here, but it occurred to me as I was reading this that that was something we haven't talked an awful lot about.
How about on that EC 96? What if we added, at the end, it would read tree removal and damage, perhaps?
Or defacing or whatever. Yeah.
Or trimming?
That's a little.
Well, the trimming is a little bit, you know,
Get into the
fact,
trimming.
you're
and decide
supposed to
what's
trim.
needed or not.
sometimes you have to trim. yeah.
Wind sail to protect the tree.
Or alteration?
Well, there are times when someone goes in and does some limbing to cut down on
It's called wind sailing.
wind sail.
I know that, Don, but I understand the rationale for that. You have a isolated tree, and sometimes you do want to,
This is unauthorized.
you do want to do it, do that type of thing. What I'm after,
Do you need
though, is
authorization to wind sail?
lately I've been seeing people who, to improve their view, have taken the limbs off most of the way up to the top of the tree. What that does is set the tree up for failure eventually, and it also makes it much less effective in transpiring stormwater runoff.
I wonder if you could find some a clause to add in after tree removal to address the issue of defacing trees, injuring trees or whatever.
Might I add, you know, Larry Crandall and I, and are some of the staff going tomorrow? I know that.
Our management analyst, Mike Sugg, is.
Okay.
Yep.
My expectation is that if we're going to an urban forestry conference, that they will have some materials on this issue as well. So let's see what we can find there or bring back.
But, you know, think about bringing back something that would address that issue.
I actually like alteration, at least as a placeholder.
Yeah.
Because I think that, because I'm just thinking of the code right now, the draft code, and it does talk about the topping, it does talk about the wind sailing, it does talk about the excessive pruning and so forth. So I think you've just given me a code amendment to the draft language to talk a little bit more about damage specifically, but I think alteration kind of captures all that.
You know, if you drive down I-90 toward Bellevue and you look up at Newcastle, you see what I'm talking about up there on the crest of the hill.
Look behind Wally Pereira's house.
And there too, yeah. And actually, it was Wally Pereira's situation that got me going, because what happened there was somebody who lives up in that area came down onto Wally's property and illegally limbed the trees.
Thereby improving his view.
Yep.
Okay, anything else in section 9?
Yeah, 9.5, I have a question. Again, there's tree canopy coverage there, and how do you measure that? I seem to recall the Planning Commission was discussing tree canopy, and if you look at it with Google, it looks like you've got 100% tree canopy. It just, to me, it doesn't say, it says achieve tree canopy coverage.
I would say maintain tree canopy coverage.
So we actually, we discovered a brief overview here. We discovered an online tool that is free, and we were able to go on, and it uses Google imagery, and we're able to actually calculate tree canopy coverage in the city of Sammamish.
Really?
And again, but it is dependent on the year, that it's a Kodak moment in time when the imagery was from. So I believe the most recent, I'll have to double check, but I believe the most recent imagery was it was either 2013 and a little bit of 2014, or it was 2013 and a little bit of 2012. We went through that exercise as part of the Planning Commission work, and we were able to determine for the city of Sammamish, I believe we were at 46% tree canopy coverage with that imagery set on the online tool. To try and see how accurate it was, we selected 3 or 4 different jurisdictions in Western Washington that had professional tree canopy imagery work done, and went through their own process to determine what their canopy coverage was. And Mike Sugg, who I just mentioned a moment ago, he went through and actually test drove using our same online tool that we did for Sammamish, those other jurisdictions, and we were within, a couple of them we were within an amazing a couple percent. I believe 5% was the largest deviation of calculation. So, we feel pretty comfortable that that tool works. It's one of those where it's a process. You have to go through and identify what's a tree, what isn't, and you click all these points, and the more points you click, the greater the accuracy gets in having the tool work. It's magic to produce a result. But
I think I saw the discussion.
Yeah.
And there was also a conclusion that it's hard to drill down to an individual lot.
The larger the area that you're calculating, the more accurate it is.
Right. So when you say allow off-site options for replanting and restoration in order to meet tree retention requirements and achieve tree canopy coverage, it's not clear if you're talking about requiring an individual developer to achieve tree canopy coverage.
Right. So to that point, we've also been working on, this was a discussion we had with council actually during council direction on developing tree lists. And through our research, we came up with some very reliable information to identify species of trees, and at full maturity, what their average canopy coverage is. So again, just thinking outside the box, how this can be applied without actually going to a full canopy coverage methodology for tree retention. What we can do is so a Doug fir is removed. So we can go to our tree list and say an average mature Doug fir covers 585 square feet of canopy, right? That's what it contributes to an overall canopy. So then as a replacement, you can say, well, your replacement trees can potentially contribute back to replacing that canopy, again, though, at full maturity. So it's a time-lapse type of exercise.
So how do you deal with a lot that has 100% tree canopy, and now you're going to build homes in it? How can you get back to 100%?
Well, you have your retention requirement, right?
So you do it off-site?
And then this is exactly where this is going, is develop off-site options. And there is draft code language, which does authorize certain off-site plantings in certain situations.
Can they be outside the city?
The draft code requires it to be inside the city.
So then you need either public land or somebody else's property to plant trees on.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would see this useful where we have trees in this community that have root rot, and as those trees have to be taken down, or we have other reasons that trees have to be taken down because they just were improperly selected, and that now they're tall and they're threatening the homes around them, that we would use this particular goal as a way of replacing the tree canopy in those circumstances as well.
Okay. Anything else in section 9?
So I guess we'll have more discussion on this when we get to the tree ordinance.
Definitely.
There are several important facets of trees. I'm going to be looking at some of the existing language for when we come back on the 1st of June. But trees perform other functions that I think are really critical and I'm not sure what's already in the urban forestry thing that you mentioned. But somewhere I want to make sure, and this is just to give you a note, so you make a note. I want to look at the functions of trees in helping minimize hazards like in the erosion control areas or steep slopes. And I want to look at the function trees perform that are very specific, for example, for the protection of Pine Lake water quality, which the management plan said you need to keep the trees around the lake to be windbreakers so you don't stir up the waters. So they have functions that I think are defined in an urban forest that I want to make sure are covered probably when we come back with looking at some of the existing amendments. I mean, existing policies that we may incorporate or look at incorporating into this. But those two types of things and other things where they have a very unique, specific function that I think is very important to our city.
Tying in with that, I don't know where it fits in here, Jeff, but we need to find a way to, in areas like Nancy's talking about, in some of the more sensitive parts of the city, and also areas that are important to the overall ecology of the area, find ways of incentivizing people to not develop land where they might otherwise do it through the use of conservation easements, having a TDR program which sends the TDRs outside of Sammamish as opposed to inside. Perhaps outright property donations or property purchase of open space within the city. Or simply outright donations by people. We're in the middle of a hearing here, and I'm not going to say which one it is, but where this sort of thing is an issue. And if we'd had that kind of thing in place, perhaps we wouldn't be going to all the trouble we are or have gone to in past in these situations. And in my mind, Sammamish might be a better place if we did this.
And just quickly, so the council did have some discussion on those exact subjects at your retreat in January. And Councilmember Odell, I think what you've mentioned here are a number of strategies to implement some of what's already in our comp plan and some of our other plans that we have. So that's a good discussion to come back around to.
Okay. Anything else with section 9? No? Next, we have some discussion of how we go forward.
Yeah, or maybe first, we do have a few folks in the audience tonight representing Arch and Sam Platt, and so certainly if there are any questions that council members may have had in their minds or have thought of as you've been reviewing the materials, we do have folks here that could perhaps answer any questions. And also then, we also received a comment letter from Sam Platt that Lyman's going to pass to his left. And there were a couple of follow-up questions, I believe, from them regarding some of the previous review the council had done on the utilities element. And we could certainly take the opportunity to, while they're here, to have a quick discussion about, I believe there's 3, but I believe the third one we may have clarified for them at the break. Or, I'm sorry, the first one is clarified. No. So there's 3. There were 3 matters brought forward in the letter, and the second of the 3 we clarified at the break with staff. So
Titled number 55, that's okay?
Yeah, number 55
Okay.
was clarified.
What about the first one, 47?
So the first one, I believe there, the question is, Sam Platt was interested in just a little bit more clarity as to what's meant by a legacy development. And Jay, did you want to go to the podium maybe, and we can?
Jeff, I think that one was mine.
Yes.
And what we're trying to get at here were the areas that were developments that predated the incorporation of the city. Some of the
Like
issues
mine.
that we're getting into along Englewood Hill Road and Lewis Thompson Road.
Oh, so you're talking way back.
I'm
not just-
talking pre-incorporation and way pre-incorporation in the case of those two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that mean everybody's supposed to hook up to sewer? I mean, I'm really not in favor of this if that's what it means.
Overall,
Well, having a plan is not the same as
having a
requiring.
plan is different from execution, but overall, I think we are moving in the direction of trying to encourage people to hook up to both.
Or neighborhoods.
I think the point was here that perhaps development of a water sewer plan in collaboration with the service provider.
Exactly.
That's the point that was being made here. And that makes a lot of sense because we're not in the water sewer business.
But should we be developing and executing it, or should they? And we should just coordinate with them.
Well, that's what they're asking.
Well, at the same time, we'll be adding, in some cases, stormwater systems, and
Stormwater, I'm all for. But sewer and water plans are, a mandate to hook up, a mandate to put in main lines and pay.
No, that's not in
I
our purview.
mean, I don't want to be suddenly, I'm on septic. I really am not interested. My septic systems was done in 2000. I'm not interested in paying.
well, this isn't about you, this is about other issues as well. in
Well,
the neighborhood.
but-
Now.
It's about people who are on 5-acre parcels like you are that wind up selling and moving away, and then all of a sudden, a R1 type situation or RA5, which is really, I guess, what you were at one point, becomes R4 or something even more dense. And under that scenario, septics, frankly, are not a wonderful idea.
Oh, I agree with you. Then everything by code has to, and health department regulation would have to go to sewer. I agree. But if you just want to keep the one house as is with the trees and on the rest of the 5 acres, having the mandate to put a mainline sewer down to serve the house and a mandate to hook up to sewer could be,
Well, this isn't a mandate, this is to create a plan.
So could we put support the development and execution or support the water districts in the development and execution?
coordinate with.
Or
Well,
coordinate, yeah.
I like in collaboration, that's what they're suggesting.
Yeah.
Cooperation, there you go.
But again, I like the word coordinate because I don't think the city necessarily should be doing the plan.
Well, we also have to deal with areas of the city, particularly some of those older areas where there are pollution issues, old septic systems and
Where
that
they-
sort of thing.
where they
So
fail.
we do have some issues, and
Oh, right. I
that's
agree.
about the lake, and it's about the streams and whatnot, so.
Nancy, it's not about your situation, and to go to an extreme example of Wally Pereira's problem down by the lake. I mean, he is often split in isolation in a sense in terms of being able to have his own water and his own septic tank, and it works just fine down there. But if Wally's property were to be developed, that would be a different story.
Oh, right. And then you don't need a plan for it because it would, by code, have to do that as a development.
Maybe a better example, though, is exactly what we're experiencing in the Inglewood Basin. As septic systems age and fail.
So in cooperation or in coordination?
For collaboration.
In collaboration?
that was what they said too.
I'm fine with wordsmithing it around collaboration or something.
Collaboration, coordination, I'm okay
How
with that.
about support development of a water sewer plan in collaboration with a service provider?
Or something like that.
Sure.
It doesn't say who develops it.
No, I like the idea of talking about coordination or collaboration, because if we're,
I did say, that would stay in there. It would say support the development of a water sewer plan in collaboration with a service provider.
okay, because I'm thinking that there are cases that we might have road issues or utility issues that
Right.
come right along right with it, so
Okay,
I wouldn't want to
Okay.
lose the,
I think we
Hey.
got that one.
The third one, what is that one about now?
The second?
Third one, the second one was okay. So, next page.
It's about the advanced meter technology, and I like their suggested change there, too.
I agree.
Can you go to the, you're not on the microphone, so.
There's only two.
Yeah, I only get two.
There's only two.
There's only
And the number 55 that was put into the letter was from May 7th. It was from an earlier, they've already made a change. The staff has already made a change, and the change is fine. It's not the exact words, but it's the same thing.
Something good enough?
So the second one, we were just one set of amendment changes behind
Oh.
when we made the comment. So that one has been taken care of by your
Okay.
staff already.
I have a problem with,
Let's hear what the issue is first.
I'm sorry.
So
You
there
wanna go
there
with
were
that?
only two. You've just talked about the first one, which was UT
Right, so
1.5.
we're on the second page.
UT 6.4, which starts on the first page and goes to the second page. It's just a continued of UT 6.4. They've already modified from the council's previous discussions, and it's fine.
I don't think we want to be calling out what specific technology you have to use.
Correct. And they already made that modification.
Okay, so we're good then?
so we're good on
Yes.
that one.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good catches.
Were there any specific issues with Arch that anyone had a question on?
Nope.
Well, we're going to re-circle around on housing
on June 1.
on June 1, so
During the day.
during the day, 1 o'clock, sometime thereafter.
So maybe that's a good segue then to wrapping up.
Yeah. So I think we've finished our work today.
No, I actually wanted to.
You had one more thing?
Yes, I actually wanted to talk about, Ben actually set up a meeting for us to spend 6 hours together, and
Us meeting,
5 hours, excuse me, 5 hours, 56, exactly. And I'm hoping he was contemplating what I'm going to propose, or the suggestions that I'm going to make right now. We met with, Councilmember Witten and I met with Emily Artache today, and I want to thank her for all the time that she gave us.
So,
And
thank you.
we discussed some of the things that we talked about this evening, or, yes, in regards to the climate change and those sorts of things. But what we did is we started talking about one of the things that I think has come up a couple of times, a number of times with Councilmember Witten, is comparing the existing plan, or the current plan, with the new policy. And there's a couple of areas that I think the Planning Commission did not necessarily get the specific direction to look at some of the existing policies. So what I want to do is say, the Planning Commission did a great job of what we're looking at. This is not a criticism of the Planning Commission. We're looking at some things that they may not have gotten some direction to look at. And I'll give you an example of that. What we'd like to do is look at the environmental element and actually take some of the areas that we think might be missing. And Emily has a good description of this. We were talking about lake management and the subbasins, surface water, those kinds of things, and almost do a cut and paste of some of the things that were in the existing plan and maybe bring them into the current plan. And that we would talk about that, what we see, if there's any if there's anything missing, if these things are glaringly missing, we'll discuss that in that meeting that we have. So that was the focus for the environmental element. Then we talked generally about the land use and housing elements. And in the land use element, this is an area that Emily did a nice job of her own, kind of on the fly last night through our discussions. She was looking at some of the current policy, and she was making direct references to the proposed policies. She was making these connections to the two to kind of, to look, to see if there was something missing. And so again, speaking to what Councilmember Witten had been looking at is that comparison. Emily did that fairly quickly. I don't think she did it as to the detail that she can do it, but she started making that comparison. So that would be something that we would talk about again in that meeting that we've just coordinated. And really, housing is a similar issue to land use. However, the comments that we made was that housing has more regulations to it. There's probably less flexibility of what to do with housing. There's a smaller window of those areas where some of those
Multi-county planning policies control a lot of it.
right. So there's probably a smaller window where we need to make the comparisons between the existing policy and the draft policy. And so we were proposing that we do that and we go through that process at our meeting that's been scheduled. So just wanted to get comments on anybody else. I thought it was
Are you
pretty good.
suggesting, because I know I spent an hour or two today when I had some time to look at the environmental practices and was going to suggest which ones I'd like to see. So you're suggesting we defer that until that,
Well,
that June meeting?
I would be honest with you. I think you should add anything that you feel you might as well.
Come to,
The specifics of it were, I was really concerned that there was missing all the references to the Pine Lake and Beaver
that's
Lake.
exactly what I looked at today.
And
So-
what I did was give Emily, she said, give me a list of topics, so she can then do her word
should-
search.
Councilmember Witten, should we read the list out?
Yes,
Okay,
go
why
ahead.
don't we do that? So it was lake management areas, basin planning, surface water, groundwater, watershed, wetlands, and lakes. And then we would take those and import them into the draft environmental element in the appropriate categories that are already listed. And then we would look to see if there's any duplicates, anything that was in the draft plan that already was in the existing plan, and then maybe eliminate any of the duplicates.
Or make a decision on which way we go.
Yeah, but some of them have absolutely nothing. The sub-basin planning would have no comparison in the proposed, because
exactly.
it doesn't exist. But they're anticipated to be a little bit of overlap in some of the other areas, and that we
What
would.
about the first section on critical areas where it calls out to identify some of these critical areas? I know some of them are already done, but that all the goals, ECP 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5, where we talk about identifying some of the critical areas, including natural areas that include significant trees, scenic areas, natural drainage areas. I know some of this is done and some of it isn't.
Well, that would be one that I didn't mention, but that you would want to have added to the list.
Yes,
Kathy.
it is. So that's why I didn't know,
Well,
if you've jumped in and done some of this, what,
No, we didn't do anything. We just are really in a discussion state. We're looking for the input that you're giving right now would be very important. And if you don't have it all right now, I think it's something that should be passed into Emily so that we make sure that we cover that.
So we're going to focus primarily, though, on land use and housing.
Land use and the environment.
Environment and land use.
And rerun the environment again
Yeah.
one more time.
And perhaps Nancy
Things
and
that
I
aren't
could,
really addressed adequately
yeah.
or at all.
Okay.
Just as a general comment from me, I found this particular side-by-side comparison to be very valuable. Because when I first started going through the comp plan draft, I felt like I was flying blind in a way. I kept wondering, okay, where are we today as opposed to what's being proposed here? And Nancy raised the issue a couple of meetings ago about not wanting to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I think she was correct in that. Because as I thumbed through or flipped through the electronic version of this, I kept seeing blank spots on one side. Now, I know that they've been combined in some cases, but this is a very quick visual of saying, hey, maybe you ought to look at this in more detail. And when you do it in detail, you do pick up the kind of thing that we did in EC2 today.
That's why the topics, which can be expanded upon, are mostly the blank pages. But we've gone through and identified them, and what staff would do is, the side-by-side that we have, I found helpful, but it's not a subject matter one. What she would do is take the topics and identify all the things in each of those topics that are existing, for example, in the environmental element. And then at our meeting on the 1st, she would hopefully get out this master list of side-by-side comparisons as soon as she could. I mean, or by the 1st, I can't remember. And then we would go through it like we have here and say, do we as a council want to incorporate these existing things, and staff may modify some of
Add them back in. Add them
Yes,
back in.
add them back in, so that way we can finish by our July date, theoretically, and we're not having any missing holes.
Does everybody kind of understand the process then?
I kind of
Jeff, do you want to run by it again?
I'd like to run by it and clarify it a little bit. So if, regarding suggesting areas, topic areas, as Councilmember Keller and Witten did with Emily today, may I suggest, in preparation for Monday, June 1st, if the council could identify any other topic areas in the environment, land use, and housing elements by next Monday, Memorial Day, we will do our best then next week, Tuesday through Friday, to undertake that exercise with those 3 elements and then have that ready for the 1st.
Because I see that the incentives, education, environmental stewardship, and I don't remember what is in the new stuff, but those whole sections were not included either.
Yeah, well, that's, Kathy, pick those up, because
I just did, I think. I don't know, did I or not?
I mean,
Or
you
do I
may
need
have
to send
others
it to you
too.
by Monday?
You'll repeat them for me so I can write them down afterwards, so.
Page 3.
Okay.
Plan.
So
So-
the,
So you're going to give him a list right now?
Yeah, page 1 and page 3 of the old plan.
Jeff, can I ask a question?
Sure.
A lot of what's in the old plan has actually been done already. For example, when we're talking about the subbasins, of the 6 subbasins, we've got plans for 3 of them, I believe.
Correct.
they're not finished.
The plans, they're
but I
finished.
know.
They're finished. Eric finished them. Sitting on a shelf someplace.
I don't know if they
A lot of the other things are in our ECA update or the shoreline update. So are we just repeating things that are already done?
So, and that was a prior discussion we've certainly had with council, where some policies continue from update to update, some policies roll off, or part of policies perhaps roll off, and new policies roll on as well. So as work is accomplished, some policies can certainly roll off,
So when we look
or they
back,
get revised in some
when we look back at these items, we should keep understanding what has already been done.
Yes.
Okay.
But
All right, everybody have an idea of what we're up to? Okay,
One more
one more
comment?
question.
Just one more comment. then
Okay.
I'm done. So then
Let's play attention. One more comment from Jeff.
it would be beyond June 1st then, assuming that our work goes well, as it has here tonight on June 1st, I think as the city manager mentioned then earlier, we would look at not having a public hearing on June 2nd and reschedule that with appropriate 30-day notice. So I think July 9th would be the date we would be looking at for.
We'd probably have to go to a special session that day. I think June 9th would be a
Or July
study
9th.
session.
July 9th.
Oh, July 9th.
Your first regular meeting in July.
Okay.
So July 9th would be the public hearing and first reading of the ordinance, and then you potentially would have a study session the next week, and then second reading at your second regular meeting in July.
Can I ask a quick
First meeting in
question?
July is the 7th.
July 7th.
Thank you. July 7th.
Kathy, Councilmember Huckabee asked about including pages 1 and 3. How do those correlate to the existing policies, the existing comp plan policy pages? Are you looking at the side-by-side comparison? Yeah. Okay.
I have one more.
Okay.
What we can expect from staff, hopefully we would get a hold of before the June 1st meeting, so we could look at it before the meeting. And then, otherwise it's too much to sit here and read at the same time.
Absolutely. So the sooner topic areas can be identified by council members and sent to staff, the sooner we get working.
The other thing is blending them. Maybe what you could present to us is slightly modified or with strikeout modifications suggested to make sure it's consistent with what we have and doesn't duplicate any in the new. So, somebody will need to blend anything, like there may be 1 or 2 paragraphs that we feel don't adequately cover something that's 2 or 3 pages long. So we want to make sure we capture what's in the new as well as the old. So some way of blending them would be helpful, maybe, whether it's by the June 1st meeting or afterwards. But the more language we get, the earlier, the better. So that's just something. And then Ben pointed out that any changes we're looking at would have to be, one of the city's goals has to be that every section has to be consistent with other sections. And that's going to take a master overview. And maybe you won't do that until after June 1st. Maybe you will, but that's certainly an issue that we need to build time in there for staff to make sure of that consistency.
That's something we'll be doing after June 1st, so that we'll have hopefully a complete list of council amendments on June 1st, and then we'll be doing that analysis and doing a strike-through red line version.
Okay, I think we're done then. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
You don't need a motion for a study session.
That's right.
Just say gone.
Seconded anyway.